Back by popular demand, because we do listen to you, and the Royal Banks of Missouri text line's open at 84126, is Kurt Stange from Stange Law Firm, a family law firm. And Kirk, Josh Gilbert is in with me today. Wendy Wiese is off, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about custody eligibility. What are some factors that can affect somebody's custody eligibility?
Well, there's a statute in every state that lists the factors, but, in a general sense, I think being stable, having a stable home, being there for the kids, being able to provide a nurturing and a caring environment, and having consistency. I mean, those are things I think a lot of judges and a lot of guardian ad litems will look at ultimately in deciding custody.
Is the mother always favored? I feel like it used to be that way.
Yeah, I've been practicing now for 23 years, and it did kind of feel that way more toward the beginning of when I practiced, and it did seem like a lot of dads were getting every other weekend and the night during the week, and, we call that a Siegenthaler parenting plan. It has gotten a lot better. Courts have really started shifting toward shared parenting where both parents get equal time. So, it has gotten a lot better in a lot of ways, but no question, back in the day it wasn't a great situation for a lot of dads.
And what really are they looking at, Kirk, when do they do interview processes? Do they ask for tax returns? Do they make judgments based on who makes more money?
Well, certainly in court, if there's a trial or a hearing, a court's going to look at tax returns and paycheck stubs and these kinds of things. In Missouri for child support, we have what's called the Form 14, which is a child support worksheet. So they definitely do look at the financial information. And certainly attorneys, even prior to trial or a hearing, are normally exchanging these types of documents and trying to compute child support numbers before a case even gets to a hearing or a trial in the hopes that it can settle.
And, I'm happily married. We have a 3-year-old son, and, hopefully it stays that way forever, knock on wood. But sometimes weird thoughts pop into your head, and it's like, oh, my God, how could I raise a child if we ever split up? Where would I go? Where, would I have to move closer?
Well, this will keep you in line.
Right, yeah. So, some of the questions that come up is, what does a normal divorce look like? Is it every other day? Sometimes they live at mom's house. Sometimes they live at dad's house. Is it full custody with visitation? What does a normal kind of, or I guess, what do the majority of these cases look like?
Well, every case is different, and different judges can do different things. So, I always tell individuals, be careful with, what is normal or what is custom and what is ordinary. Different judges can do different things, and different facts call for different outcomes. But again, more and more, I've seen this shift over, certainly the last decade, the last 5 years in particular, where you see a lot more shared parenting, a lot more equal time, and that being the norm, at least on the Missouri side of the river. I think Illinois is not quite there yet, but you can see it from the perspective of a week-on, week-off schedule. Sometimes we do what's called a 2-2-3, so the kids are with one parent, 2 days, and the other 2, and then 3, which is basically one parent getting Monday, Tuesday, one getting Wednesday, Thursday, and you flip the weekends. But look, different things can happen in different cases, and that's why it's critical that somebody have a competent and diligent and zealous attorney in their corner, because different cases can result in different outcomes for sure.
Kirk, do you and Josh remember the early 80s movie Kramer versus Kramer with Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep?
I couldn't watch it because they say it's just heart-wrenching.
Well, as I recall, did you see that movie, Kirk?
It's been a long time, I was born in 74, so I was pretty young then, but
yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, I kind of felt like watching it the other day to see if it holds up, but here's what I remember. The mom left the home. The father was taking care of the little boy, and then the mom wanted to get custody. If that situation happened today where the mother leaves the home and the father is raising the little boy, will she have a harder time?
Well, there's no question she'll have a harder time. I just think the difficulty at times is, court systems are backed up. You look at St. Louis County, what's the population? About a million people, and, 50% of marriages end in divorce. 4 out of 10 kids are born out of wedlock, and all these cases end up in the court system, and there's just not a lot of judges to hear these cases. So, look, I think that would be a factor, but I do think at times with the backlog of the court system, There can be a tendency to just say, well, okay, she's back and she wants to be involved now. Give her 50-50. I mean, there can be that tendency at times just with, how backlog courts can be and stuff.
Do you keep up with, I'm sure that, psychological magazines, trade magazines have investigated this now that divorce is so common. What is separation like on the kids? Is it better for them to stay in one home the whole time, or is it better for them to have equal time with both parents? Has psychology weighed in on this?
Yeah, that's obviously a huge debate. And look, when I first started practicing, I think the viewpoint was that kids should be in one home. I think that was a lot of the justification for the dads getting the every other weekend, that it was more stable for them to be in one home. But there's been a lot of psychological data that's come out, and this is what's really pushed the idea of shared parenting, which is that if both parents are involved, both parents have roughly equal time, then the good news is the kids are having contact with both parents, and when both parents are involved, that they have skin in the game and they stay checked in, and that's actually better for the kids. What some of the psychological research would say is to the dads is that, look, if they're getting every other weekend, they're not getting a lot of time, and they're having to, shoulder the financial burden through child support. A lot of dads would check out and just say, look, this is too much, I'm paying a lot of money in child support, I hardly get to see my kids. And so a lot of the data would say, hey, by keeping these dads involved, they're more checked in, and then the kids have both parents, and this is actually better. So definitely the new research, the most recent research, and it can vary, but as a totality, is very much in line with shared parenting being a good thing.
What is a default divorce, Kirk?
Well, a default divorce happens when somebody is served divorce papers and then they don't respond. Once an individual is served in Missouri, you've got to file an answer to that petition and typically a counter petition, and you do it within 30 days, and that keeps a party out of default. But some parties, unfortunately, can get served the papers, they stick their head in the sand, they don't hire an attorney, they don't file an answer, and default is sort of like forfeit. To give you a sports analogy, if one team doesn't show up to the field, the other team wins by forfeit. So, party defaulting is a very bad thing, and it typically results in the other party getting almost everything they want. So, parties have been served divorce papers, get an attorney, don't put your head in the sand. Do both people getting the divorce have to appear in court? Well, if it's settled, then no. If it's settled, more and more judges are accepting divorce settlements by affidavit, so parties then don't have to show up into court. But if parties cannot settle and there's not an agreement, then that would be the instance where the parties would, ultimately be there in a trial or a hearing. And certainly parties also oftentimes have to appear, even if it's settled, at a pretrial conference or a settlement conference or other court dates. But, those situations, they're normally not testifying. So more and more, Kirk, are you seeing shared equal custody? Yeah, there's no question that is the trend. That is the way things have been moving. And it's not universal across the country. Again, if I just take St. Louis, the Missouri side of the river is much more as a whole, and I'm generalizing, but much more in line with shared parenting. Illinois, still not quite there. But again, different judges are different too, so it's hard to just say one state or another state. The truth is, you look at our Supreme Court. You got liberal judges, conservative judges. Yeah. They can hear the same case and decide it different. But as a whole, shared parenting definitely the norm. Kirk Stange from Stange Family Law. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you if they need you? Yeah, you can go to familylawrepresentation.com or call 855-805-0595. Thank you so much for joining us again, Kirk. Appreciate it. I appreciate it as well. Thank you.